What's up guys? We are back with another episode of Budget Deck Tech, and today we're looking at the Tezzeret Cruel Machinist Planeswalker deck. So you can pick this deck up for about $10, and my goal today is to see how I can improve it by spending only an additional $10 on singles to add to the deck. So I've got to end up with a standard legal deck, and any cards that I do add have to be from the 2019 core set. This starts out as a mono blue deck with quite a few artifacts in it. There are actually quite a few blue cards in this deck that work really well with artifacts. And while this starts out as a half decent deck, I feel like there's quite a few improvements we can make to it. So one of the big things I'm going to be doing is adding a lot of cards that help us control the board more. Our end goal here is to have more cards in the field, have more cards in our hand, and just try to control what our opponent can get out onto the field. We are going to start out with 25 islands in the deck. So this deck really doesn't get going until you have 3 lands out there, so we want to make sure we have a fair amount of islands in our opening hand. We are going to leave Tezzeret in the deck. This guy has a really nice ability where he lets you draw additional cards, so once we get him out, we'll be drawing 2 cards per turn. We are putting a full playset of Skilled Animator into the deck as well, so this is a 1/3 creature, and when he comes into play, you can turn one of your artifacts into a 5/5 creature. So this is going to be one of the cards that's really going to help us out in the beginning. If we get lucky with the right opening hand, we can have a 5/5 artifact creature out by turn 4. The deck currently came with 2 of these. We're adding 2 more at 50 cents a piece. We're adding a full playset of Arcane Encyclopedia to the deck as well. So these cards currently go for $1/4, and they will let you draw additional cards every turn if you have the mana to spare. We're adding 4 copies of Sky Scanner to the deck. So this is a 1/1 artifact creature with flying, a little bit expensive at 3 mana, but when you cast it you get to draw a card. This is probably going to be one of the cards that you turn into a 5/5 artifact creature with the Skilled Animator. So the deck currently came with 2 of these, we're adding 2 more at 15 cents a piece. One of our more expensive cards to cast is going to be the Wind Reader Sphinx, so 7 mana for a 3/7 flying creature. With this guy in play, whenever you attack with a flying creature, you may draw a card. So this is going to be a great way late game to allow us to draw a lot more cards every turn. We are adding a full playset, and these cards go for 50 cents each. Next we're going to add a few cards that allow us to send our opponent's creatures back to their hand. So first is the Riddle Master Sphinx. This is a 5/5 flying creature for 6 mana, and when you cast it, you get to return one of your opponent's creatures to their hand. The original deck came with 1 copy of this card, and so we're going to leave it in there. Next up is our most expensive card that we're adding to the deck. So Exclusion Mage is a 2/2 creature for 3 mana, and again, when you cast this, you get to return a creature your opponent controls to their hand. The deck came with 1 copy of this card. We are adding 3 more at $1 each. Our last creature is going to be Meteor Golem. So this is a 3/3 artifact creature for 7 mana, definitely expensive to cast, but when it enters the field, you get to destroy one of your opponent's non-land permanents. The deck comes with 2 copies of this card, and we're going to leave both of them in. Next up is a card that we definitely want to cast when we have the Meteor Golem in play. So One with the Machine is a sorcery, and it lets you draw cards equal to the highest converted mana cost among the artifacts you control. So in our case, that could be up to 7 cards. So this card is currently a little bit pricey, so we're only going to be able to keep the 1 copy from the original deck in our deck, but if you have a little bit more money to spare, go ahead and add a few more copies of this card. The rest of our deck is going to be filled with the classic blue instants and sorceries. So we're going to start out with Bone to Ash. We're adding 4 copies of this card to the deck, and it counters the target creature spell, plus it lets you draw a card. So this guy goes for 4 mana. We could have gone with Essence Scatter, which is a lot cheaper to cast at only 2 mana, but I think the added benefit of drawing a card really makes Bone to Ash worth it. And then we've got 4 copies of Cancel. So for 3 mana, you can counter any type of spell. Last up, we are adding 2 copies of Sleep. So this is probably one of my favorite sorceries in this set. It essentially lets you tap all of your opponent's creatures for 2 of your turns. So that's a really effective way to just take control of the board for 2 turns. So 2 copies of this card at 25 cents each. So that is it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing all those new cards, and maybe you got a few ideas for a deck you might want to build. We will see you next time.